Come on, webcam, work for me. It would be nice if you actually did something. If you actually worked. There we go. Jeez. I'm off center, but that is okay. Hi, everyone. Hopefully, I don't get kicked off of my live stream again. But that should all be in order. Huzzah. Um, I was. I'm in between training sessions right now, so I wanted to discuss a couple of things. Let me just make sure that everything is good. I'm actually going to listen to myself on my phone to make sure that I am actually. Ha! There we go. It is working. Well, that's good. Lucky me. Okay. Enough of looking at my phone. Just make sure that my stream health is okay. Looks like it's good. Again, I'm used to using slobs, but this is just raw from YouTube. Okay. Yep, okay. Everything's looking good. I like it. Okay, so let's get started so I'm not boring anybody who is watching from after, I guess. Okay. Um so this a couple of things before I start. This doesn't count as the video, the one video a week. We're getting a video tomorrow will be up. Um and if there's like whoa shaking, yeah, I am live. Hi. If there is shaking, it's mainly because the window is right behind my screen, so it will. I can't think today. It will shake my TV. But I wanted to discuss a couple of things today because it was on my mind on my bike ride this morning, and it's not scripted or anything. It's just I thought that it would be interesting to talk about. Um, because of the interesting feedback I'm getting from Curse of Strahd, the Curse of Strahd videos. But not just because of me, because I'm also seeing uh, Blue Dragon RPG and Zero's Hobbies. Um, they also put out a video on the Call of Cthulhu starter set, and which I'm so excited for. Call of Cthulhu is hands down my favorite game. As much as I like D&D, and as much as I like Traveler, it's just Call of Cthulhu is such an easy and awesome system that uh, it's it's it just is. I don't even know where I'm going with that thought. Um, but I wanted to discuss the idea of horror games. Now, we do have two videos on this kind of topic, but I wanted to add some more anecdotes to it, I guess, because if more people are going to start exploring the idea of playing games that are spooky, um, I think that the GMs and the players need to know a couple of things before they even start. I look like I'm. These things are so big. Jeez. Okay. Anyway, way off topic. Um. So again, this is completely unscripted, so this is all just kind of off the top of my head. I was thinking about it when I was riding my bike, but so I know a lot of people. The thumbnail has this, so I'll talk about this first, and then I'll get into Call of Cthulhu, um, and to a lesser extent, Chthonian Stars, and I don't Matt, uh, my co-presenter, who has just as much input on this channel. He is more of a World of Darkness guy. So Vampire Masquerade, if you watched our other videos, you'll see that he likes that, and is it there's like a werewolf one, right? He's explained it to me, but I've never played it, so I don't have enough evidence to talk about that game. But I do want to discuss why it's important to talk to your players before you play a game like Curse of Strahd. And Curse of Strahd isn't this one's just the one that's relevant right now to my channel. But it goes for just about any heroic style kind of game. So even if you're playing, Tomb of Annihilation and you're trying to do that spooky, or any other of the cool one-shot modules out there that are designed to be a little bit more horror-esque, I think it's important that you have a conversation with the players. And I'm going to be referencing mostly the horror gaming podcast that Matt and I did last October. He had some really good points. I don't know whether or not to look at the webcam or at my screen, so my eyes are like all over the place. Woo! But I'm going to be referencing that. I might reference a little bit of the horror video that we put out a while ago. But the biggest important thing to do when it comes to running a game like this is you got to make sure that your players are down for it. Personal experience. I've run Curse of Strahd, as we said, more times than I can count on almost two hands at this point. And only one of those times have I run a game where it exploded in my face. And Matt has had games like that he's run. I'm sure just about every DM has had a situation like that, or has at least heard of situations where the table kind of implodes on itself because what you're trying to run is different from what the players are expecting. And a big part of this kind of game, I keep on smacking the Curse of Strahd book, is here. Where's a good way? Nope, that's not tall enough. Oh well, whatever. Goes to show how prepared I am, right? If you don't have like a session 0 where you as the GM will come to your players and say, hey, what are we looking to play? What are we looking to get out of this? It's very important because sometimes a player is down for a spooky kind of game every once in a while, but maybe someone doesn't want to go through a whole campaign of gothic horror. And there's a certain amount of player buy-in that Matt and I discussed in our horror podcast game, or horror game podcast. There we go. Very important. Matt mentioned this, that it's a kind of buy-in that requires everybody to be on the same page. You as the DM don't want to be running the Exorcist when the players want to run the Ghostbusters. So you all have to kind of know what you're looking for in a game like this, because then the game will implode. Every time Curse of Strahd has worked for me, and then eventually also Call of Cthulhu, I've had to talk with the players and say, hey, there is a chance in this game. Actually, there's not a chance. It's more likely than not that you are, as a player character, going to have to run. And that's not something that a lot of players want to do. And I'm not going to mention any names, but one of the players I played at the table that kind of fizzled out, it fizzled out for a couple different reasons. But one of the things that he said, and actually I took it to heart, um, and that's really what inspired the reason why I really want to have session zeros. Um, is because he said I play D&D because I want to be a hero, and I don't want to I don't want to run. Um, and and I think that's not um, Mr. Ducks. That's not that's not just a that's not a player issue. Like I completely understand. And the thing is with fifth edition is that fifth edition is definitely a heroes game. Um, I've only hope you don't hear that cat. There's only one. I've only played one short campaign where I played it first edition Dungeons and Dragons. Um, but what I remember from that was it was a lot more deadly, and just like when you play Dungeon Crawl Classics. If any of you have played Dungeon Crawl Classics, you are used to having the idea of I might need 4 character sheets because I'm going to die. Whereas in fifth edition, it's really, really hard to die, especially after like 4th level, especially after 3rd level. And the issue is that um, I was rolling random encounters and I was just boosting them up a little bit because I was trying to narratively show the players that this is kind of a scary place. Barovia in Curse of Strahd, and they were just not happy with that. They were like, no, I want to be able to stay here and defeat all these monsters and win. And that is not the player's fault. you know, that was my fault. Not because I was throwing too many enemies at them, but because I didn't have the discussion with them about what it's like to try to make the player characters frightened. And it's hard because in a heroic game like D&D, you have all these special powers, you got magic items, you got a lot of hit points that scale up with you, and you can't really make the players feel like, oh my gosh, it's freaky, unless you throw overwhelming odds at them. And even then, they're probably gonna unless you really, really, really like do something drastic, they're gonna win. It's just how fifth edition is. Um, I feel like monsters in fifth edition, personally, I love the edition. I'm so thankful that it's there. It's gotten lots of people into the game. It's approachable, but the monsters don't really scale that well with characters. So like you can throw like 2 CR5s at a pack of 4 level 3s, and the CR5s will batter and bruise them, but they're probably going to be the ones that are defeated. um, so what you have to do is you have to throw a lot at them, and even Curse of Strahd even basically says in the very beginning, it's like, hey, when they're trying to get through the mists of Barovia, I don't know the exact number, but they're just like throw packs of wolves at them, just so they get the point. That you don't want to go in there. But with fifth edition and D&D in general, it's the problem is that because you are a triumphant heroic character, the players are going to try anyway, and then they're going to get mad at you when they do actually have to turn and run, and they don't like that. So you have to make sure, at least again in a heroic game, I keep on using the term heroic game, like D&D, you have to make sure that your players are on board, and that's kind of the biggest part of this. I'm really happy that more people are commenting on our videos saying, hey, we're going to pick up Curse of Strahd. I'm so happy, and I'm happy I don't get paid by Wizards of the Coast, but this is I'm just happy that I'm able to introduce more people to this because it's my favorite module. The problem is with more people running it, that means that there's more chances of what happened to me for one of my games happening to them. So this isn't something I wanted to like develop a whole video for, and we kind of already have sort of one with the Halloween podcast, but I just wanted to reiterate now that it's fresh in your mind with my Chris Estrad videos, with um, sort of because more people are looking into the horror genre thanks to more of the tabletop engineers doing more horror stuff. Um, it's fresh in people's minds and they want to run it now, and that's awesome. I just want you to succeed. I don't want you to fail at this because you know we do our job to set up this awesome game, and then if we watch it implode, I don't want you mad at yourself, and I don't want the players mad at you, and I don't want you mad at me. um, so biggest takeaway from this is make sure your players are okay with the fact that you will be in a campaign filled with horror. And make sure that they are okay with the fact that, yeah, at lower levels, there's a good possibility that, excuse me, pardon me, but that there's a good chance, um, especially at lower levels, that I rolled a Revenant and you're 4 level 4s. I don't know if you're going to want to stick around and try to fight this thing. So run. And you're you're basically just going to have to sit down with your players. And it's okay, I think, to meta game in this. I know a lot of people don't like that idea, but in Chris Estrad, I think it's perfectly okay to sit together as players and a DM and decide how to build your characters. I know that there are some. I've watched some videos. I'm not going to call any of them out. They're all great videos. But they say something completely opposite, where they're like, "No, you make sure that they don't know what they're doing. Um, None of the players are allowed to know what other players are doing. And as a matter of fact, you should just make them pre-gens. Make sure that none of them do radiant damage." Um, that's what I saw 2 videos kind of alluding to. One said it outright, and one was like, maybe do this for Curse of Strahd. Well, one of them was specifically for Ravenloft, but whatever, same thing. I am not against the players getting together and us having a life cleric, a light cleric, a paladin, a divine soul sorcerer, and an Aasimar bard walk into Barovia. That's perfectly fine with me. Again, it is a game where you should be able to play the hero characters. DMs, what you're going to have to do in that situation is you're going to either have to homebrew monsters that somehow aren't radiant damage susceptible to it, um, or you have to throw more monsters at them. But they want to do that. Chew through it. Make them chew through monsters. It's fun. Sorry, I'm getting a whole bunch of stuff popping up for me. Because I'm not using slobs, I am not getting streamer mode on Discord and stuff. That's okay. So that's basically all I have to say about Chris Estrada and horror games and D&D in general. Now I do wanna kind of discuss a little bit more about Call of Cthulhu. I have I don't claim any authority on the game. I've been playing it for a couple of years. It's definitely my favorite. There are people out there like Seth Skorkowski, who are just like the masters of Call of Cthulhu and stuff like that. That's not my. I love it. I love the game. Stupid dogs. But people like Blue Dragon RPG, he loves it too. I think he's been probably been playing it longer than I have. So go see him or go see Zero's Hobbies reviews on it, because I would say that they're more the authority on it than I am. Though I'll try to throw a link in the description. I do actually have a published Call of Cthulhu module. So if anyone wants to see that, I'll throw that in the description. It got What did it get? It got a whole bunch of upvotes on the Call of Cthulhu subreddit, and I think I got the silver badge for it. So people liked it, I guess. But the thing about Call of Cthulhu that's way different from D&D is, one, it's a skill-based game. It's not, a level-based game. But far from that is that you are helpless, not even heroes. You're just helpless people. And in Call of Cthulhu, you don't really win. You just don't necessarily completely fail utterly. Unless you do. In that case, it's hilarious. Call of Cthulhu is where I've wiped parties out. And it wasn't even because I was throwing monsters at them. It was because they were stupid. They weren't stupid. There was miscommunication. But between what the players were doing. Just a quick story. They were in a mine, and one of the players had a broken leg, so he was on crutches, and they went down to a mine, and the other guy's like, "Hey, this is a mine, and there's dynamite, and I have the explosives skill. So let me rig up the mine to explode, because I think it would be funny." Yeah, well, he and some of the other players couldn't get out in time. I think he critically fumbled on it, on the explosives. He rolled like 100. So I don't. Again, I would try not to be a mean game master, but I mean, come on. You fail in an enclosed space with your explosives rolls with a 100. So something bad is going to happen. So the cave collapsed on them and they all died. That was funny. It was a good way to end the game. But with Call of Cthulhu, I think more people. The thing about Call of Cthulhu is I would consider that a horror game. It's such a fun game, Call of Cthulhu. If you haven't had the chance to play it, the quick start rules are on Chaosium. They are free, and I mean the quick start rules are good enough to get through a lot of the game. To be honest with you, it doesn't give you like the stats on all the guns and stuff, but you don't necessarily need that. A lot of things. I'm not saying to not buy the book. I'm just saying, like, if you are hesitant, the quick start rules are a great way to start. Also, that book, or the module that I wrote and is out, is designed to be used with the quick start rules. So I think, so it's been a tradition for me. I've actually broadcasted on Twitch a Call of Cthulhu game for Halloween for the past couple of years. And it's kind of a tradition for me. I think the Tabletop Dungeoneers should do one. Personally, I think it would be cool if they did one for around Halloween. I know that they have the After Dark series. So if they could do like a cool one shot of that, that'd be fun to play in or run or at least watch. But the difference about Call of Cthulhu is that the players, basically, to play Call of Cthulhu, you automatically buy into the fact that you are now the hero. And that's the biggest difference between that and D&D, is that when you're playing Chris Estrade in D&D, you still have the expectation that I get to use my fancy feat that lets me, I don't know what feat is fancy. Just like the archer feat, or I don't know. I'm trying to pull off feats off the top of my head. Great weapon fighting. Reroll ones and twos. With my giant claymore that I smack people over the head with. But in Call of Cthulhu, it's like, okay, it is. And there's Pulp Cthulhu. I'm not talking about Pulp Cthulhu. Pulp Cthulhu is its own can of worms. But regular Call of Cthulhu, it's your size and your constitution added together divided by 10. So you might have 11 hit points. And if a gun does 2d6 plus 2, there's a chance that you could just die from one shot. And it's kind of scary. I have a stain. That's embarrassing. Black was not a good shirt choice. But where was I going with that thought? Yes, Save or Die. That would be cool. I don't know how to broadcast anything. I mean, I know how to broadcast. I guess I do because I use slobs. But I don't like know how to do like the faces everywhere and set up a template for that. There was someone who was in the game who would always do that for me because it's hard to be the DM and worry about that at the same time. But Save or Die was suggesting that we do that. So, but the thing with Call of Cthulhu is, I guess, not to try to beat the dead horse. It's just that you have the expectation that you are going into a game where if I see a monster, I have to make some sort of check, and I'm probably going to run, even if I pass the check. I'm still probably going to run because I have a handgun that does 2d6 plus 2, and that star spawn over there. Is this star spawn? Let's just call it the star spawn over there. Has 50 hit points and 10 points of armor. Like, I'm not going to try to fight it. I'm going to run, and hopefully if the DM the referee calls for luck checks, I'm able to make them. But with the player buy-in with Call of Cthulhu is you go into the game knowing that you're going to run from a lot of things, but in D&D you're not. So I guess the big part of this whole stream is me just trying to say, if you want to successfully run a spooky horror kind of esque game in any system that doesn't kind of bake into its system that you have to not be able to fight, and in like a level based system or something where you are just this super buff hero person, you're gonna have to talk to your players about it, and ask if it's okay if they are willing to play in a game where they're barbarian who rages and swings his giant sword everywhere, and your awesome battle master fighter who's like weaving in and out of zombies, with his dual wielding short swords, just gone crazy. Is it okay that you have overwhelming numbers? And not every player is experienced enough for that. And I don't I posted this question on Reddit. I asked, hey, is Curse of Strahd a good game to start players off with? I didn't really lead it with anything. I didn't say I'm making a video on it. I didn't say anything about that. I just said, what do you think? And I went to the Curse of Strahd Reddit, and I went to the D&D Reddit, and I asked the same question. And it was about half and half. Half of people are like, yeah, throw them into the meat grinder early, start them fresh, and just let them know that this is kind of scary. And then a lot of people are like, no, they have to be experienced enough to understand when to run and when to fight. And that game that I had run, so the big two mistakes about that game that I run that imploded with Curse of Strahd was, first mistake, we didn't have a session 0. We didn't really talk about it. And 2, they were all new players. Well, save for 1, they were basically all new players to 5th edition and to D&D in general. And that's, that's where I went wrong. So I think that you need to be able to have players like the Tabletop Engineers. If anyone ever ran that, and streamed it, I think all the players are mature enough to handle the fact that their character might have to not stick around and fight all the time. And I know that that's such a sticking point for my argument, but you don't understand how many players want to play D&D so they can win. But it's it's not in the end. I'm going to use Curse of Strahd example again. In the end, you win in Curse of Strahd if you run it by the book and you don't like die. You're going to win. And in the grand scheme of things, you're going to win. But what story isn't good if there's no setbacks? You know, like if the story was just happy all the time, there's no threat of losing, then why is there? What's a story without conflict? At that point, I mean, even like the little, I don't want to get into too much, but like even like storybooks as a young kid that were designed, it was just, there was conflict in it. And I don't consider necessarily that fighting equals conflict because, yeah, it's technically a conflict that you're fighting against a monster. But if there's no chance of you losing, then why is it fun? Why do we even do it? So the dogs and the cats again, they just really like my backyard. The I guess where I'm trying to go with this is that you need to. Where am I trying to go with this? I don't even know. Again, you need to be able to have a mental respect and capacity to understand that, hey, for this game to be scary, I have to be willing to buy into that this game will be scary. And that's the final conclusion of this, is that to run a game like this, to run Curse of Strahd, to run Call of Cthulhu, to run Chthonian Stars, which by the way is an amazing horror game. Nothing is scarier than Cthulhu monsters in space. It's just a quick rundown. Chthonian Stars is, I think it's Mongoose Traveler First Edition, but it easily translates to Second Edition. It uses the Traveler rules, and it's more like if you've seen the movie, if you've read the books or seen the TV show The Expanse. It's more similar to that. So it's more of a hard sci-fi with like this weird alienness to it. So you're not really like, it's not like Traveler where you're in this whole Milky Way galaxy. You are just in the solar system that we're in right now, the current Earth solar system. And, you got these nasty alien monsters that are basically Cthulhu, H.P. Lovecraft inspired stuff that just kind of warp out of space, and you're these humans who don't have faster than light capabilities, and you have to figure out what the heck's going on. So it's Traveler. It's just much more dangerous and scary Traveler. So anyway, I don't really have much more to say. I just wanted to talk about that. If anyone has any questions, I don't know who's watching. I know it says I have a couple people watching. I see that Saber Die and Miller's Marvelous Miniverse is watching. Both talking about running some sort of game online. So if there's no more questions, I'm just going to end the stream because that's really all I had to say. I'm also embarrassed by this stupid stain. But that's really all. If you have any more questions, just, I guess, leave it in the comments or go see that horror podcast video that we made. So anyway, I'm not really getting any more comments or questions. So I think I'm going to end the stream. I thank you guys for watching. I have to go get ready for my second workout of the day, so I should probably be going anyway. You hung up on me when I asked you yesterday. You have a okay, so we got a question about the fog. And so, I didn't hang up on you. um, I don't quite know what you're asking. Hey, what do you mean by the fog? Is there a lore behind the fog? I'm guessing you mean by Curse of Strahd. The lore behind the fog is I think it's different in Ravenloft than it is in Curse of Strahd, and I think it's different in third edition too. Because in third edition it was like its own setting, if I remember right. Honestly, the lore behind the fog is it's just a magical. It. The lore is, and I don't know if this is me throwing in my own homebrewed stuff into it or not, because I've this is just what I tell people, is that the lore is Strahd's, because it was Strahd's basic hate and despair that kind of trapped him in the people into this place. That it's his subconsciousness that's keeping everything in. It is magical. Um, some people say it's coming from the Raven Queen, from uh, the Shadowfell. Depending on who you ask and what edition, it could very well be that Barovia is in the Shadowfell, and that's just how the Shadowfell works. Um, I personally think that it is. It's part of the curse of the lands. So when he got more than he bargained for, when he became a vampire, and the pact that he made it with, depending on what edition you want to go um, with a demon or with a Raven Queen, uh, that it's just for him to be contained in that, and it's basically his own hate and despair that's keeping you. Weirdly enough, though, he did leave. He did somehow he lets the Vistani in and out. But from what I understand, and from some of the comments that I've talked with people with on like Reddit and on other forums, that Strahd can't leave Barovia himself. So he lets other people in and out, the Vistanis, but not him. But in the grand scheme of things, the lore really is that the fog is just it's Strahd's hatred that's basically keeping you in. So that's really on that one. The Ravenloft, I know that they can both hurt you, but I think in Ravenloft it was like really bad. It was like really poisonous, and it can like kill you if you don't go back to Ravenloft, or if you don't go back to the town of Barovia within like 24 hours of being in the fog. It was more of gas than it was fog. In this edition, it's just like, oh, you make your DC 10 con save, and if you can't, then you fall asleep, and then you wake up and you leave and you go back to Barovia. There might be some specific canon lore, but honestly, I don't remember if the story that I tell people is canon or if that's just make believe in my head. You do it so many times that you kind of forget, right? Let's see here. I know there's a little bit in here that just talk about the mists, but mists. Oh, okay, it's a little bit harder. Hold on one second. It doesn't really give a whole lot of info specifically on the fog. It just says that a deadly fog surrounds the land of Barovia, and engulfs any creature that tries to leave. Even flying creatures are subject to the fog's effects. So, it doesn't really give a whole lot. There's probably some more somewhere in that book, but what I was giving you was probably a combination of what I've read in the book and then some of my own just homebrew speculation to it. So, that's all I got on that one. Anything else, anybody? Oh boy, I'm gonna get copy striked by the overboard DM. Hey man, I didn't mean to steal your Harley Davidson. Oh wait, you don't drive one of those. I forget what you ride. Now he's gonna copyright strike me because I said that he drove Harley Davidson, which is not the right vernacular for that. Just like you don't drive a bike. Okay. Guys, I am going to end it. It's been 40 minutes. I'm sure that anyone who wants to watch this afterwards is probably already sick and tired of hearing me. So I thank you guys for everything. I have to go anyway because I just got a text message. So I will see you guys later. Next or tomorrow, so the 29th on Friday, we will have a video. Stay tuned for that around 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hope you guys have a great day and remember to game on.